So I have an offering for you all. Make sure you listen to the end of this episode so you can hear all about it. Hey, it's HPG. This is the podcast, Living My Breastless Life, the show where we hear about my journey to heal while battling cancer, being a wife, a toddler mom. We're going to cover all things real life. We learn what it really means to heal no matter what we go through. In Season 1, you will hear some of my story, along with episodes featuring my occasional co-host, Martha, and some badass guests. There will be humor, life hacks, tips and tricks, and further proof that truth can be stranger than fiction. Self-efficacy simply means communicating your needs. At the time that individuals are getting diagnosed with something like cancer, we're faced with fear, uncertainty, disruption in every key aspect of our lives. There's an unspoken rule that we're supposed to educate ourselves, make informed decisions about issues in which we really have little or no experience. Even if you do have a lot of knowledge in these areas, your thoughts and feelings can dominate you. Self-efficacy is definitely emotional labor. I would encourage you to ask questions, seek clarification when you don't understand the answer. Ask your medical provider to use plain language. Something that I found to be really interesting was that you were able to record the visit with your medical provider with their permission and go back and listen to it after the visit once you've had time to process what they've said. Side note, there's a statistic that says patients only hear about 15% of what their provider says. So I think there's a lot of value in recording the visit with your provider with their permission and going back and listening and making notes to continue asking the questions and getting the clarification on things you don't understand. I think you also need to make sure that your values and goals are a part of the discussion. It's scary to imagine that your doctor won't listen to you or that you'll be judged by them, but self-advocating gives you the chance to get your needs met. It also helps you gain control over your life. If you don't speak up, then change can't happen. Now, as a cancer survivor, I can tell you all this is easier said than done. Don't be afraid to say no. If your doctor is wanting to try a treatment that you're uncomfortable with, say no. If you sense a change, ask for tests. Your body truly does know best. If something's changed with how you're feeling, ask for another test, even if you've had one recently. Be honest with yourself and your doctor about your feelings. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to say so. It's also fine to cry and get frustrated. Our medical providers are there to help us. And if they're not, look for someone who can. I think another thing that can be really helpful in terms of self-advocacy is to ask for trusted websites that could provide more information when you have the mental capacity and a little more emotional labor to learn more about your diagnosis. If you can take someone with you to your appointments, that can be really helpful. They can take notes. They can listen out for things that you may not understand by watching your facial expressions. And before you go in, let them know, toward the end of the visit, will you please ask, is there something that you don't understand? Is there something that you need clarification on? I also think that using the patient portal as a way to communicate is really effective to get your questions asked. It's documented. I have found that using the patient portal in communication paired with phone calls to get my questions answered to be very helpful. Let's take a little break and get right back to the show. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch by heading over to According to HPG on Instagram and be sure to tell your friends about the show. There was a time when I thought I could record, edit, and publish everything myself. Seeing as this left me very little time for anything else, I started to lose the standard of quality I was used to. Then I found Jay. In less than a day, the show went from so-so to amazing. Don't sacrifice quality for mediocrity. Check out the Podcast Mechanic and take your sound to the next level. Connect with Jay today at the Podcast Mechanic on Instagram. Let him know HPG sent you. And now, back to the show. If there's a resource at your clinic, such as a social worker, a navigator, a patient advocate, I would highly suggest that you lean on them. Additionally, you'll want to ask for services. Do you have a dietitian? Is there an occupational or physical therapist that you could refer me to that might be helpful? Get really clear about what your practice has to offer. Also, your insurance company may have a point contact that could help guide you along the way. Also, keep in mind that your practice manager may be a good point of contact. If you've tried the portal, you've tried calls, you've asked a lot of questions and you're still not getting clarification, call the provider's office and ask to speak to the practice manager. I have really learned that being the squeaky wheel does get the oil. I think sometimes we don't want to bother people. We don't want to come across as a quote-unquote bad patient. I think when you're facing something like cancer or a major life-changing illness, it's really okay to speak up for yourself. Just remember, if you don't speak up for yourself, change can't happen. Recently, I was able to interview Laura McGowan about her new book, Push Off From Here. That said, I have an extra copy. So hop on over to Instagram, follow According to HPG, send me a DM of a topic you'd like to hear, including your email, and I will randomly select a person who gets to receive Laura's book, Push Off From Here. Thank you for listening to this episode of Living My Breastless Life. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please leave a review, download, and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Go get your mammograms.